is important, but some of us are worthy of note this evening. We would like to please welcome Mr. Chukuma Ephraim Okenwa, CEO, the Executive Director, Leeds Network Africa. Please put your hands together. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Would like to also recognize the presence of Professor Emeka Anyanwu, the HOD, Department of Anatomy. Please put your hands together for Prof. All right, we see you, sir. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much. We'll also like to recognize the presence of Dr. Obeka, Senior Lecturer, Department of Marketing. Please put your hands together. Please put your hands together. Please put your hands together. All right. Now, it's important that we note very quickly that there's a way this event will go tonight. Most of the questions that you may want to ask after the introduction would, we have what we call cue cards, so you could just raise your hands while, please, ladies and gentlemen, we have our chief discussant in our midst. Please put your hands together for Professor Kinsley Moghalu. Thank you so much. Please put your hands together. Please, you're not celebrating. Thank you so much. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. All right, like I was saying, we have cue cards, so questions that you may want to ask as the event goes further. Nicely just raise your hands. There are people at the back that have the cue cards. They could get it across to you, so you hold on to it with a pen and then nicely write down the question you would want to ask so that it will be done nicely and we can be done with this event as quickly as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to bring up the convener. Please put your hands together for my friend and a very, very senior colleague. Please put your hands together for Dr. Nonso Oraedu. Please, you're not clapping. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, our guest discussant. First of all, I must apologize for the amount of time. And of course, to our viewers watching online, we tried all our best to make sure we start as early as possible. Of course, my pastor has said a lot of things that is in my spirit. But it's important I also re-emphasize in just a few minutes. DLX is not just an academic platform like the name suggests. It is more than that. It is a platform to discuss issues of national concerns. It is a platform to share knowledge. It is a platform to share experiences. Of course, like he said, the reality of today was an issue that was impressed in my spirit far back in 2016. This subject was an issue that was impressed in my spirit far back as 2016. And it was what fueled my ambition to get the highest academic qualification. Because it will be difficult for you to challenge a system you've not conquered. And I have already conquered the academic society, and I know there are flaws in that system. No nation can develop independent of the quality of its human capital. No nation can develop independent of that. It has been proven over time. And of course, we are meant to believe that education is the key to success. Education is the key to success. Of course, some persons, including myself, agree to that. But it looks like over time, that is not the case. As it stands now, Nigeria is the second in ranking that has the highest rates of unemployed graduates in Africa. Our unemployment rate is pegged at a little bit over 33%, according to National Bureau of Statistics. But I bet you if you engage an independent organization, you discover that it is more to that. That is excluding the rate of underemployed people. So my question is, Is education still the key? Or is there another key? Is the issue with the key or with the padlock? Because it looks like a system that should produce people that should become successful and great in their respective journey is getting them more confused. It looks as if we have no ideology of what we want to do with education. Take a look around. Everything that we enjoy today in terms of products came as a result of education. The changes in the banking sector, the changes in the telecom sector, in the fintech subsector, a lot of things are changing, and they are all traceable to education. So what is the issue with our education? Why should somebody finish from the university and begin to ask himself, what am I going to do with my life? Whereas it should be the other way around. What I will do with my life should propel the system I will embrace. That is what I think. I will share a little story with us. I read that during the space war between the United States and Russia, the then Soviet Union. Soviet Union were the people that first launched into the space. Americans were upset. They started blaming each other. They blamed the academic society. They blamed the government. As in, everybody was blaming each other. But they sat down and decided to create a blueprint of what they want to do and what they want to achieve. And of course, as at today, government are not just the ones funding it, even private institution, private organization. Elon Musk just traveled and came back the other day. And that is a product of that convergence. That suggests that once you build a philosophy behind something and discipline yourself around it, potentials are that you will make it to become successful. Somebody asked me, why talk about future generation, whereas we are still talking about our generation? And the question is valid. But my answer is this. I fear for the future of my daughter. I fear for the future of the next generation. And if we don't prepare this current generation, the next generation will also follow the same path. In other words, if we compromise our generation, it boils down to the next generation. It is this generation that will build the next generation. And I told them, in all honesty, check people that are enjoying good success as are today, all over Nigeria. They all had a rub-off of previous generation. This wasn't the way education is meant to be. So, are we going to get government attention? Maybe. But what I would want us to achieve here is to stimulate that discussion. Let that begin to happen in our hearts. Let's stimulate debate around these issues. Can we do better? What can we do better? And of course, we are not going discussing this and putting the blames to the government, even though they have a lot of issues to share. But we are more interested on grassroots approach. What can we do at the level where we are? Because, in all honesty, government has proven over time that they are not really committed to the agenda of education in Nigeria. So, we are looking for solutions that can be implemented at individual level and at institutionalized level. What can institutions do to do better? What can they start reasoning? That is what we want to achieve. Of course, our guest discussants, Professor Kinsley Moghalu and Professor Ikechukwu, are not going to talk to us from omniscient point of view. They are going to give us their insight. They are going to tell us what they think. And of course, we'll get input from members down here. Because at the end of the day, it is a collective thing. It is a collective effort and not a my effort. And with that, we can get a lot of things changed. We can create a lot of transformation. And I tell people, we need to be careful the kind of people we send to the educational system. So having said that, I would want us to please in a few moments, let's get to know more. Of course, I know that we've read about them on social media, on any other platform, but it is important that we also get to know more about our discussant. Let's hear their brief profile.
Professor Kinsley Moghalu. Kinsley Moghalu is a politician, former central banker, academic, former United Nations official, philanthropist, and change maker. His presidential candidacy in Nigeria's general elections in 2019 inspired millions of Nigerians and is credited with altering Nigerians' political narrative in the direction of reform. Born in 1963 in Lagos to Isaac Moghalu, a Nigerian Foreign Service officer, and Vida Moghalu, a school teacher. Kinsley Moghalu's career to date marks him out as an agent of transformative change. As Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria from 2009 to 2014, appointed by President Oraedu, he led the implementation of extensive reforms in the wake of the global financial crisis that stabilized the financial system and saved the livelihoods of millions of Nigerians. No bank failed. No depositors lost a kobo. He also led the payment system reforms, including the development and introduction of the innovative, unique identifier bank verification number that enabled the development of the country's large financial technology sector today. Kinsley Moghalu is a member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the CBN that successfully tamed inflation in Nigeria by 2014, bringing it down to a single digit of 8%. He also served as the chairman of the boards of directors of the Nigerian Export-Import Bank and Financial Institutions Training Center, and a member of the board of directors of the CBN, Asset Management Corporations of Nigeria, Security and Exchange Commission, and the Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia-based Global Alliance for Financial Inclusion. He was a member of the president of Nigerian's Economic Management Team, representing the CBN. Following his 5-year tenure at the CBN, Moghalu was appointed Professor of Practice in International Business and Public Policy at Tufts University Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, one of the world's top professional graduate schools of international affairs, where he taught and mentored graduate students from countries including Brazil, Canada, France, Ghana, India, Japan, Nigeria, Switzerland, United Arab Emirates, United Kingdom, and United States of America. He previously worked for the United Nations for 17 years in conflict resolution and international peace and security operations, nation building and development finance role in New York, Cambodia, Croatia, Rwanda, Tanzania, and in Switzerland, rising to the global organization's highest career bracket of director. In 2006, Moghalu, appointed by the then Secretary General Kofi Annan, served on a UN General Assembly mandated high-level panel that overhauled the organization's transparency, accountability, and administrative dispute resolution framework as part of the UN management reform. Kinsley Moghalu is now the president of the Institute for Governance and Economic Transformation, a public policy think tank focused on inclusive growth, and the CEO of Sogato Strategies, a global investment advisory firm. He served recently as the special envoy of the United Nations Development Program on post-COVID development finance for Africa, developing a concrete policy roadmap out of the fiscal distress into which the COVID-19 pandemic plunged the countries of the sub-Saharan Africa. He obtained his doctorate of philosophy in international relations at the London Schools of Economics, a master's from Tufts University, and the LLB degree from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He also holds a professional certification in risk management from the Institute of Risk Management in London, UK, and received executive education in leadership, corporate governance, and microeconomics and financial management at Harvard University, Kennedy School of Government, Harvard Business School, and the International Monetary Fund Institute. He is the author of several books, including the critically acclaimed Emerging Africa, How the Global Economy's Last Frontier Can Prosper and Matter. In 2005, Moghalu founded the Isaac Moghalu Foundation, a memorial philanthropy for his deceased father that supports access to education for underprivileged youth in rural communities in Nigeria. He is married to Marianne Moghalu, the executive director of IMOF, and they have 4 children. Kinsley Moghalu holds the Nigerian national honor of the Officer of the Order of the Niger, OON, the traditional title of Ife Kaego of Nnewi Kingdom, and the Doctor of Laws, conferred on him by Chukwuemeka Odumegwu University and Anambra State University. He is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. He enjoys walking, cycling, and listening to music. Associate Professor Ikechukwu Emmanuel Obi. Dr. Ikechukwu Emmanuel Obi is the Commissioner of Health, Enugu State, Nigeria, an Associate Professor of Public Health Medicine, a Public Health Specialist, and Fellow of the Nigeria Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria in Public Health, with a Master degree in Public Health, an Honorary Consultant of the Department of Community Medicine, Faculty of Medical Sciences, College of Medicine, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Teaching Hospital at Ikechukwu campus. He hails from Ogonogo Ejin, Nduno, Amazing, Akuogo, in Kano West local government area of Enugu State. He was the Senior Special Advisor to the Chief Medical Director and Head of Projects and Partnerships Management Office at the University of Nigerian Teaching Hospital. He was the training coordinator of the Community Health Officer Training Program in UNTH and coordinating consultant of the Abagana Comprehensive Health Center, which is an outpost of the UNTH. At the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, he is the Research Fellow and Pioneer Course Coordinator of the Health Promotion and Communication Stream of the Institute of Public Health, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He was the Pioneer Director of the Biomedical Communication Center of the College of Medicine, University of Nigeria, Nsukka at Ikechukwu campus. He headed and served credibly on the various committees of the Department of Community Medicine, Faculty of Medical Sciences, College of Medicine, and the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and the Teaching Hospital. As a health development consultant, he served as long-term technical assistant on a health system strengthening project for the Family Health International, the Global HIV/AIDS Initiative in Nigeria, and the short-term technical assistant, national consultant to several international and local organizations on assignments in Nigeria, such as the UAIDS Malaria Action Program for states, John Snow's International Maternal and Child Survivor Program, DFID's Partnership for the Transformation of Health System 1 and 2, support to National Malaria Program in Nigerian states, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Health Reforms Foundation, Pristine Healthcare Consulting, the Enugu State Agency for HIV/AIDS Care, to mention a few. He is a member of the Nigerian Medical Association, immediate past chairman of the Association of Public Health Physicians, Enugu State Chapter, was the publicity secretary for the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, UNTH Chapter, a pioneer member of the Health Development Guild of Nigeria, a member of the Nigerian Network of Health Trainers and Consultants. He is the Deputy National Representative of the International Association for Communication in Healthcare and an Associate Fellow of the African Heritage Institution. He is published in several pioneer-reviewed journals, presented papers in both local and international health conferences. He is married, happily married with children.
Well, let's jump down together for Professor Ikechukwu. You know, they share a lot of things in common, but few ones that got my attention is that, one, they are both change makers. I have followed Professor Kinsley Moghalu over the years, and I have worked closely with the Honorable Commissioner for Health. The second one is this: they are both academics. So, they have all it takes to discuss this subject under discussion. And of course, the third one, of which I am glad to share with, is that we are all a product of the University of Nigeria. Thank you so very much. Thank you very much. So, with that clapping of welcome, let's welcome Professor Kinsley Moghalu at the stage, and then the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Professor Ikechukwu. Thank you, sir. You may be seated. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have spent so much time and we try as much as possible to cover that up. So, having said that, I was going through the profile that was read a few minutes ago, and of course, some things caught my attention. Professor Kinsley, during your profile, you mentioned that your mother was a school teacher, and you have a father who worked as a foreign servant, civil servant. Did that in any way influence the kind of profession, the kind of things you decided, kind of system you decided to embrace?
Yes, certainly. Of course, given their background, they placed very high emphasis on education. So we were brought up to, prioritize schooling, our schoolwork. You had to do your homework. My father and my uncle personally taught me handwriting. I remember in those days. Nowadays, a lot of young people don't know how to write because they just go straight to their phones, punching their phones. But handwriting, I want to tell you, is still very important, because as you write, your brain is working. And there's a direct link between your brain and how you are writing. And of course, you know that one of the professions in the world is handwriting experts who can tell certain things about your character or your personality from your handwriting. My father in the 1960s was a member of the Nigerian Foreign Service. He served in Lagos at the ministry, and then in Geneva in Switzerland, and then in Washington, D.C. before the Civil War. So, apart from my own personal interest in international affairs, that background also was influential. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And of course, so Professor Ikechukwu, the Honorable Commissioner, I was going through one of the programs, your TED Talk on, I think it was on communication on health. And then you said that one of the things that influenced you to study medicine is the word, I dare you. Can you give us more information on that?
Okay. Yes, I remember that particular program. The title of my TED Talk, which is online, is that communications will cure healthcare in Nigeria. And yes, there was a specific part where I was describing a little bit about my early life and my sojourn into medicine. It has a lot to do with the fact that this topic of discussion is close to my heart because for me, it has a lot to do with my personal experience. Back in school, I found that I had a flair for art. So I can right here scribble a face for you on a sheet of paper and it will look close to real. And I was good in technical drawing and I was also a science student. But early in life, there was this dilemma. Summarize it by saying that I came out with an A3 in additional mathematics, an A1 in mathematics. I did the science subjects, but I also came out with an A1 in fine arts. So you can imagine the kind of a young man that I was, and I'm sure in this crowd there are so many people who are facing that kind of dilemma right now. So, fast forward a few years to just after JAM. And I happened to be one of those who took one of those courses then called pre-science. So there was the JAM score, there was pre-science score. And when we were waiting for our courses to come out, lo and behold, I got 3 courses. My name appeared in the list for geology. My name appeared in the list for architecture. And then suddenly, I discovered my name also appeared in the medicines list. So, it was a case of what do we do next? And just as I was making up my mind to go into architecture and study architecture, in fact, I had picked up the forms and started registering. Sharing some drinks with a few friends one evening, one of my closest friends said that the only reason why you don't want to go and read medicine is because I am afraid of reading medicine. And I was taken aback and I was shocked. I said, what do you mean afraid? So for me, it was a challenge. While we were conversing, the next statement was, I dare you to go and read medicine. By the next day, my bags were packed. I jumped into his own father's car, and his father's driver took us to Newi, where I registered and started reading medicine. And that's where this journey into medicine started. Thank you.
Quite an interesting story. Quite an interesting story. You know, for some of us, it was either JAM that determined the kind of study. After looking for admission for years, you know, for some of us. Now let's get down to the subject of discussion, Professor Kinsley. Education with a vision. Do you think it is high time we're taught the type of system the youth should embrace, our children should embrace? Do you think it's high time we begin to change our mindset towards education?
Yes. Is it working? Yeah, okay. Yes, certainly. You know, what people do not realize, we take it for granted that education decides the educational system of any country, how strong it is, how good it is, how weak it is what decides. Apart from leadership, the political leadership, the educational system is the most important deciding factor in whether any country makes progress or not. No question about it. Here's why education matters. It matters for three very foundational reasons. There is something called a worldview. That means how you interpret the world and how you relate to the world, how you navigate your way in the world as you grow and as you live. Now, it's a very important concept, and many people do not understand that if you look at every country that is a powerful and great country, that country is always based on some philosophical worldview. But in this country, when you discuss those things, people will say, you're blowing grammar. That is how you know a society that is dying. Of course, it is proof that the society is dying when issues of a vision of the world and of your place in it, when issues of intellect and knowledge are being discussed, and somebody says, the man is just blowing grammar. Hey, I pity people who say that. And I say, when I campaign politically, I'm sorry. The reason I'm running for president is because the countries that have made progress, whether it's Barack Obama and Joe Biden or whatever in America, whether it's Angela Merkel in Germany, whether it's Russia, wherever, they are led by men and women blowing grammar.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, Honorable Commissioner, the thing about education is that we have abundance of talent, talented individuals in this country. But we also have a system that does not help to optimize the talents embedded in our youth. Do you think it's high time we begin to customize learning in such a way that it can help unlock the talents in our youth? What is your view?
Frankly, I think I'll simplify my view in this way. I would want to speak directly to young people and tell you very clearly, please stop waiting for government. Just stop waiting for government. Because honestly, there is something that has been put in your hand, and that is your phone, and that is the internet. If we keep waiting for government will keep bringing all the policies, and I can tell you now, a few months ago, I might have had a different view, but I can tell you now that a lot of times government actually has the best of intentions. But it's just not, maybe it might not have been thought through properly. And then sometimes one of the challenges that we have with government is that absence of a continuity plan. The absence of a 25-year strategic plan. The absence of a 50-year strategic plan. So, for the youth of now, I say don't wait for government. There is something in your hand. One thing you must do is this. Think of that thing that keeps you awake at night. Think of that thing that nobody has to push you to do. Think of that thing that if they wake you up in the night and say, do this, with all pleasure you will do it. And you will keep doing it until you're surprised that it's 4 a.m. and you realize you are not even tired. Then you have started to find your way in life. And then when you start to find that place, quickly get to your phone. Look for short courses in that area. Look for places where you can read that course and go after it. There are scholarships there, out there. There are people looking for who they can sponsor. And right now, your phone has made the world a global village. Go and educate yourself and enter into a profession that God has given you, and you will shine.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Go enter a profession that aligns with your vision, that aligns with your passion. Thank you very much, Prof. Professor Moghalu, there's another disconnect we notice in our current system of education. There is a wide gap between the corporate society and the learning institution that should gain from the knowledge obtained from this institution. And that disconnect seems to affect the quality of graduates we produce in this country. What is your view? How do we bridge this gap?
Before I answer that question, permit me to comment on the commissioner's statement, which is true, that young people need to take the initiative to educate themselves using their cell phones, using a lot of technology that is available in the world today. But I disagree when he says, don't wait for the government. One of the biggest problems we have in this country, and it's the reason why we're not making progress, is when we allow government to get away with not doing its job. We should never do that. The reason a government exists is to take care of the security and the welfare of its citizens. If they do not do that, don't say don't wait for them. I will say vote them out. Vote them out. That's your duty as a citizen. And every government, when we talk about good governance, it means accountability. They are accountable to you. The politicians, you are the boss, and the politicians are employed by you. And when you have a relationship where you hire somebody for 4 years to do a job, and that person is not reforming your education system or your health system, you fire the person. It's very simple. So that's my comment on that. We shouldn't let governments get away with it. And the citizens now, we become a self-help society. Why does a government exist? Why do I pay my tax if I should just say, forget about the government? So that's just a quick comment on that. I know he meant well in saying it, so it's not a criticism of him, but it's just bringing another perspective into the discussion. Now, on the question you asked about the role of business, in societies that make progress, I keep using this word, societies that make progress, there are certain characteristics you will find. I've talked about the blowing grammar. They are all blowing grammar. So that's number one. Number two is you will find that the role of business and the markets is to promote, apart from profits. They make profits, but a large part of that profit is reinvested in the pursuit of knowledge in educational institutions. Businesses in Asia or in America or in Europe, they fund research and development in universities, R&D. They consider that one of their main duties, especially for innovation. The things that enable us to create new things are things that come out of thinking and research, and most of that is funded by businesses. So we need to institutionalize the role of business in our country's educational system. The driving force of the wealth of nations is innovation. And it is innovation that produced this thing. Many of the minerals that make this thing are in Africa. But and we are using it, every man and his uncle, every woman and her aunt, they have a cell phone. Hey, how are you? Hello. Yeah, wonderful. But who's making the money? It's the company, the Samsungs, the Apples. They are the ones making the money. Corporations. And they're doing this because they are financing innovation. They're financing R&D, research and development in universities, STEM subjects, to produce engineers, to produce scientists. So the role of businesses needs to be structuralized in Nigeria to finance innovation, because you see all these young people who manufacture or invent brilliant things. You just see them on the pages of the newspaper. That product, you will never see it again, apart from that photo of that child. But if you have a business that invests in that innovation and says we will mass produce it for the marketplace, that business, which abroad we call them venture capitalists, they invest in new ideas, mass production of those new ideas, it enters the marketplace. The quality of life improves, everybody is happier, and wealth is created. So business has a role, we have to make it structural.
Okay, I get you, sir. But my concern with that, just in a few minutes, can you just throw light on it in just a few minutes? How do we get both parties on the same table? Who is responsible for that? Who is going to? Is it the institution that will go for it?
Let me answer the question. When I become president of Nigeria, there will be, it's a very straightforward answer. Because the problem is that you're electing people who know Sabi. And that is why you don't get progress. You elect people who know what to do. Instead of following this big party or that big party, look for the candidate that can actually govern. And then vote for his party. That's all. So, I intend, one of the ideas I have is to set up what we call a state business relations council. The role of that council will be to manage the relationship between the government and the organized private sector, and even the informal private sector, so that the synergies, we can capture them. We can say, this is where government wants to go. What are your problems? What are your challenges? What do we need to do for you? What do you need to do for the government and the people? So you create a framework that actually captures this subject we are discussing. It doesn't exist today. Some people are more interested in grazing route and other matters. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, am I enjoying the discussion? I'm enjoying what you're bringing to the table. But we are also more interested in what can we do outside the government. Outside the government, a grassroots approach. That is what we are more interested in. Now I'm coming to the Commissioner for Health. So I understand that financing continues to be one of the greatest challenge in our institution of learning. You know, when you talk about fund, you see ASU, they will flare up. A lot of money is needed to fund education. Are there any sustainable model you can recommend for higher institution, private institution to embrace in order to fund education for the system and also fund access to education? Any idea? Any model you can, sustainable financing model that can be explored by our institution of learning?
Okay, let me speak directly to the question and maybe use an opportunity to draw in a few other things that I personally feel may be the problem. that we face. I think one of the things that we may have as a problem in Nigeria is the fact that the various nations that make up Nigeria have not started to look inward. Inward in the sense that there are a few examples of the Igbo nation, for example. It surprises me that people have come from Harvard to come and look into the Igbo apprenticeship system. And then if they will take that and take it all the way to Harvard and start to study it, then I ask this question: why is the Igbo man not studying it? You say you are looking for a financing model? Let me just ask a question. We say development is important. Most of us here are Igbos. I schooled in Nnewi. My co-discussant is from Nnewi. Let me tell you something I discovered in Nnewi. Nnewi, the average Nnewi man is resourceful, he's competitive, and he understands money. He does not understand money from school. He understands money from being an Nnewi man. Let me tell you, Nnewi right now, it's surprising, is dotted with several huge, big, very expensive houses. But the road network is not as good as it should be. Before I say the next thing I want to say, I happen to have joined a group of similar thinking people, and when they were calling my profile, they mentioned the Health Development Guild of Nigeria. That group came into being as a result of similar thinking people coming together and understanding that we were professionals involved in health development consultancy. But we discovered that what we had been doing was that we were borrowing the models of Europe, the models of the US. And then based on a single principle called the meeting under the Mupundu tree, we discovered that we were already having conferences and workshops in Nigeria, in Africa, right before the white man started to talk about conferences and workshops. What do you think those in your villages do under the trees when they come together as a community to discuss development? They are having a conference. But what they were doing was they were having indigenous conferences, solving problems in the only way they know how. In the only way they know how. So tell me now, if you want the streets of Nnewi to be built with the finest asphalt, I challenge an existing government, even the municipal government of Nnewi, to ask people, to ask the Nnewi man, or give him the right that if he tars a patch of the street, that he will have the right to put his title on a plaque on that street. I tell you, you will get Nnewi streets probably tarred with gold, because that man wants the aggrandizement and the recognition of who he is, and that he's the one that did that particular thing. You might get the kind of development you have never believed before. What I think is the educational model or the financing model we should think about is a looking inward. What is it that is our strength? Whatever it is that is a tribal strength, that is what we should fund its education of. We should go and take the study of the Igbo apprenticeship system back from Harvard and come and institutionalize it in our schools in the Southeast and promote it. And then let the businessmen fund it. And I tell you, you will get the best business experts produced anywhere in the world, and then we will start to export some of the innovations and the brains that will come out from the funding of that educational level. Don't leave it for Harvard. Bring it. Let it be studied at Nnamdi Azikiwe University, the Igbo apprenticeship system. and let that Igbo man that is trading understand that that apprenticeship he's going through is a course and that he can actually be recognized. Imagine Charis coming to deliver a lecture on the Igbo entrepreneurship system. I tell you, by the time he talks for 1 hour, you might write a textbook. So if you are looking for financing models, let us look inward and we'll find the financing models. The Hausa man has his own. The Yoruba man has his own. With indigenization, we should borrow technology, we should borrow knowledge, but we should come back and indigenize it and start to discover what are those things that are our strengths and then create courses around them and fund them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, Prof, why he has brought up that entrepreneurship system, apprenticeship system, as one of the things that can help us move forward as a nation. One of the things I also discovered is that the Igbo entrepreneurship system becomes an indigenous knowledge that can be spread across and used to develop our curriculum. Now, looking at our research culture and attitude towards research, it has been proven if you are looking towards developing an economy, more research is needed, just like you've talked about around research and development as one of the things corporate organizations go into or fund. We have, to a greater extent, we have poor research culture in this part of our world. How can we stimulate research culture? How can we uptake and utilize research for national development?
Thank you for that question. Recently, I wrote the foreword and was the keynote speaker at the launch of a book that blew my mind. That book was about contemporary issues of COVID-19 in Nigeria, written by a group of scholars from Nnamdi Azikiwe University and from Ikechukwu University. It was a combined effort. And I told them that in all my travels around the world and all my international engagements, I was a special envoy for the UNDP on post-COVID development finance. I have never seen a book like this on the COVID response of any society in the world. This book discussed the science of the response to COVID to Nigeria, discussed the culture. In fact, my favorite chapter was the role of the impact of COVID on traditional activities in Anambra State, like social distancing,
Exactly.
all this. This is indigenous knowledge. And I told them, I said, I will help you get this book published globally so that you get the global recognition in addition to the national one that you deserve. So that white people and Asians will know that we produce knowledge in our own society that is applicable to the world. So I think that we need to educate our private sector. Coming back to the other discussion, the financing of research is important, but the best way to promote it is to find a way to achieve effective utilization of the product of research. Once people begin to see that research results in applied knowledge, not a theoretical thing in the lab, and that it has practical use for all of us, you will begin to find, and especially if you create a business model for businesses, let's say businesses that are in the pharmaceutical line, let us just say. We know we have all these herbs in our society that cure many diseases, but the white man will come here, take it, go and make it into chloroquine and all these medicines and sell it back to us in a very expensive way. And the best way to do this is to develop our intellectual property regime. When people make money from the knowledge they discover, it is an incentive for them to discover more. When production, mass production, comes out of discovery, everybody is making money. The venture capitalist is making money. The middleman is making money. The inventor is making money. The wholesaler is making money. This is how wealth is created. So these are, we just have to find the incentive for everybody in the chain. You see the point?
I see.
Yes. Economics is all about incentives. It does not respond to the president has ordered this and that. No. Otherwise, the naira will be 1-to-1. If the market was listening to the president, it is now 500-to-1, heading towards 1,000, despite whatever. So we need to understand what unlocks the wealth of nations. Incentives. Capitalism is based on human nature. Human nature wants to make a profit. So let them make a profit. Let the businesses that fund the research make a profit, and you will see this research industry into boom.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, it is very heartbreaking. I'm into research, and then over the years, I discovered these changes in the banking sector, and most of them come to be, I'm talking about the market changes, come to be as a result of the output of some sort of research. And we don't have a reputable dissemination network in Nigeria, where most of this research can be used as an avenue to sell out to the public. Now, what most of these people do is to subscribe to foreign reputable publishers. And some of us in the academic world, in this part of our world, have to now struggle to get paper accepted in those outlets. It seems like there is more or less lack of confidence.
Let me tell you something I forgot to mention. The role of the media. There is something called the socialization of innovation. How do we socialize research and development? How do we socialize it? You know, that's what I mean. So the media needs to give more publicity to the practical impact of innovation. So it becomes a social thing, just like our iPhone or our Samsung is a socialization of innovation. But our media need to make a conscious effort to socialize our indigenous research. You see what I'm saying? Yes. And I think it will become more accepted, more attractive to businesses, to finance, and so on. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Honorable Commissioner, we have issues. Let's look at the curriculum development in higher education, in the colleges and the universities. These curriculums are there to help us produce champions, to help to produce people that can help put our country in the path of prosperity. How can we use our curriculum for national development? Because it looks like we get textbook, students read over it, write exam, and it ends there. Is there a way we can fine-tune our curriculum to align with sectors we want to champion, areas we want to develop in Nigeria? Any view on that?
Okay, thank you once more for that question. You see, the issue of the curriculum just simply brought me back to what I had even mentioned before. Let's examine curriculum. What do we do here? Honestly, I have seen a lot of the documents we call our curriculum. In truth, what we simply do is we copy and we paste. So we will copy and paste something that was developed in the UK. We will copy and paste something that was developed in the US. Sometimes we will go to Belgium. Let me just give another country. And then we'll copy and translate it and we'll paste it. For me, the earlier we start to think about what is important to us, what is intricately us, and then we start to develop curriculum around it. I won't want to deviate too far from my own personal experiences. Maybe that's how I'll choose to discuss some of these ideas. I told you that there was a group that we formed. We came together, people thinking together. And what we did was that there were about 40 of us. Now, 40 of us thought and said that we were tired of DFID, USAID, the WHO and UNICEF always being the ones to set the terms of reference for us on how we will perform on consultancy projects. And we said, can we not indigenize our processes? And it bettered what was called the Health Development Guild of Nigeria. What we simply started to do was we formed a group. In that early period, the group was, like I said, a fledgling group of 40. Right in our group, we planned 4 sessions. Each session was about 4 days intensive brainstorming. And what we did was borrow from the knowledge and the skills we had from our different experiences in national consultancy, working for the different agencies. And we started to develop a curriculum for what it would take for somebody to become a health, a Nigerian development consultant. Now, the curriculum we developed was even as far as what should be the content of a consultant's bag in Nigeria. Not in UK, in Nigeria. And we thought about it and we developed our own. What should be in a consultant's bag in Nigeria. And you know what? In the UK, nobody will tell you that a consultant's bag should contain drugs. But part of what we developed that should be in a consultant's bag in Nigeria is, please have anti-malaria inside. Have Panadol in your bag. Because sometimes where you will find yourself is right in the field somewhere, far away. In Nigeria, no matter your level of education, you find yourself on a job, and you find you have to be collecting data or doing whatever in the field. If you take ill right there, you are on your own. There is no 911 service, no emergency, no calling for this, and then somebody will come and rush and pick you. So we said, pack your bag, make sure antimalarial is inside. And if you are diabetic, have your drugs right there with you. Those were the kind of things that we developed. And we started to work out other things. And I tell you, where we are now is that we actually run courses where we develop Nigerian development consultants. Right now, in our group, you can attend 4 sessions of these intensive 4-day programs. And then, following the curriculum that we had developed, you will learn to become a health development consultant in Nigeria. So if you ask me what we should be doing about curriculum development, I said, just like I said before, we should think inward. This is an opportunity for me to challenge some of our groups. If I had an opportunity, I would tell our governors. Because right now, it's about governorship in cliques and in groups. When our governors come together to discuss, somebody should come and tell them that, look, it's time for us to look at what is our culture. And then from our culture, what are those things that are important for development culturally to us? And then aspects of business, aspects of curriculum development will start to churn out from those things. I tell you, interest drives passion. And if you find those things that are natural to you, that are intricate to you, I tell you, even if somebody says you should research on it, you won't have a problem. in the course of my teaching in school, when students come to me and say, sir, I am looking for a topic because I want to write my project for my MPH degree. The first thing I tell them is, what are you doing right now? Where are you working? And one person came and he said he was working in NAFDAC and he was trying to do an MPH. I asked him, what is the major work you people do in your own office? By the time he identified it, within 45 minutes of discussing, we were able to find something that was a research topic related to the everyday work he was already doing. I had to supervise his project. I tell you, he had a project topic, a proposal in 3 months, and then we kept on developing with that proposal, and in double quick time, he was able to finish with his subject and finish with his project and passed. Interests, daily living, culture, they drive passion. They drive innovation. We should think inward. In groups, in our geopolitical zones, we should start to think, what are those things that define us? And we should start to develop curriculum and research around them. My opinion.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. You are talking based on your own experience as a medical practitioner. So, Prof, you wanted to throw more light on that? Please, can you?
It's a very important thing. It's a very important topic. I think that two things should guide development of curriculum in Nigerian educational institutions. One, what are the things we need as a society? That's a very important determinant of what should be in our curriculum. A curriculum must be need-based. It must be based on what the society needs. One, for the society itself. One of the things we need in this country is ethics, ethical values. And so, one of the things I've said in my manifesto is that when I become president, I will be pushing for the introduction of ethics in the primary school and secondary school curriculum. Why? Because knowing what is right and wrong addresses the collapse of values that we have witnessed in our country over the last 40 to 50 years. So that's one. The second, we also don't have patriotism. So we need to develop our knowledge of history. So this matter of history in the curriculum. Any society that does not know its history is finished. So history has to return to a pride of place in our educational curriculums. We also, the second thing that we have to develop our curriculums based on is what makes our society globally competitive. We live in a globalized world today, and we should not only be consumers of the products of globalization, we must be part of the production value chain for globalization products. So even if we don't manufacture a full product, but we can manufacture parts of what make that product, and it becomes our specialty. This is what countries like Thailand have done. This is what countries like Malaysia have done in electronic products and so on. So the needs of the society and global competitiveness are two important things that should drive our curriculum. That means in the area of global competitiveness that our curriculum must shift towards science, technology, and entrepreneurship. These should take up, in my view, 60 to 70% of the curriculum. I studied law originally. I can tell you that lawyers are not as useful as doctors, as medical doctors. I can tell you that. In this stage of our society, lawyers make a lot of trouble, and they're very useful too, designing the Constitution and all those things, yes. There was a time when we needed a lot of people in the classics, English, history, all that. When we were trying to take over from Britain, we needed that cadre of people to man our civil service. Right now, what we need more is manufacturing, innovation, people to know how to run their own business. You need to know how to run your hustle, as they say. So we have to educate our young people on, you can have a course called Your Hustle, how to make sure it doesn't fail, or how to make sure it succeeds. It's original. Thank you.
So generally, you feel that there are courses or there are professional field of study that should be prioritized.
Prioritized. That's what China did. China has philosophers, and philosophy is very important for the quality of thinking and the mind. So they balanced, but they said, we want to become a global power, rivaling the United States within so and so number of years. What is the key to the dominance of the United States? Science and technology. So they began to prioritize it in their curriculum. So you have a lot more of the Chinese educational system geared towards engineering and the sciences and technology than you do for the liberal arts. At a certain point, you can rebalance it. But I would say that in Nigeria, for the next 30 years, 70% of the curriculum should go to STEM and entrepreneurship, how to run your hustle.
Thank you very much. You've just mentioned something, entrepreneurship. I remember after the global financial meltdown, that was in 2007-8, entrepreneurship curriculum was introduced in the universities, in secondary schools, but it seems like what we have is more of theories. For instance, I know of a university, I wouldn't want to mention the name, where we are taught how to construct upholstery, chairs, on paper. You draw it and then part of your response, like the exam is for you to label. That is theory. Teachers were not trained. Materials were not made available. Now, what can you tell the youth? How do you expect them to imbibe and embrace entrepreneurship? Different from what has been offered to them in the formal institution of learning.
One way to do that is that universities, students in tertiary institutions especially, even secondary schools who are in entrepreneurship, they can make an initiative of their own to empower people who have succeeded in these areas in the normal world of business. And many of those people would be very honored, very glad to come to schools and teach young people how they themselves made it and how those kinds of businesses are run. That's number one way. Number two way involves the government. You're running away from, I notice, but I say you can never run away from the government. Your responsibility is to bring a competent government. That's the way to do it. Now, one of the reforms that I would bring about in the education sector, I'm going to be the education president. I'm a professor. So the educational system is personal to me. So I, will restore the matter of the regulation of the educational system. In the banking sector today, banks are the most regulated businesses in the world. Why? Because if you take your money and give it to a bank on trust that when you go to the bank, you will find that money there. That's the reform that we did. And I led the implementation of that reform. I led the introduction of the BVN, the bank verification number, to make the system easier. So we did that because of the importance of not allowing the banking system to collapse. The education of our children is important enough for the regulation of education to become a very important thing. We must return to the times of the school inspectors being very, very powerful, going to schools and determining whether the entrepreneurship class that is taught is just theory or whether it's actually teaching kids how to do business. These are the things that you have from effective regulation of the educational sector, which today is lacking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I wanted to come to the Honorable Commissioner, but you just said something that you said it is lacking. As at the moment, there are a lot of reforms that the federal government have put in place through NAPTEP, through the Federal Ministry of Health, through NAPTEP, and it was all geared towards producing graduates that are employable. Now, there is one of those initiatives is the Vocational Enterprise Institute. We also have the Innovation Enterprise Institute. Yeah. And these reforms were created to empower the post-secondary level.
Yes.
And of course, the people in polytechnics in order to be able to embrace the future when it comes to employment.
Yes.
And it looks like these are not working.
Yes.
So
let me tell you why it's not working and what to do about it. I always identify the problem and then I'll give you the solution. That's the difference between me and your you-know-who and others. You know them. Yeah. So the point is this. If you understand the role of the government is to set the policy, to provide funding for education broadly, but the matter of creating jobs when kids leave school is not a matter for the government. The way the government can solve the problem is to change the curriculum and make sure that many kids that come out of schools are employable by themselves. That is, they can set up their own hustle. This is where the education curriculum and the education policy comes in. When the government does that, they've done their job. One more thing that I will do when I'm president is this. I will set up a 1 trillion naira venture capital fund. Do you know why? Everything that they're trying to do is about credit, credit, credit. But the cost of money in this country is very high. You have to pay back a bank at about 28 or 25% interest rate. Then you can say the central bank will do a development finance thing that will be 10% or 7%. But the problem with anything that the government does in Nigeria is that people see it as a woof money. It is a woof. We're going to get our own share. Of
the national cake.
No. Economies don't grow that way. Jobs are not created that way. So when you have a venture capital fund, what does it do? It doesn't give you a loan. It gives you money to start a business and it becomes a co-owner in your business. That way, they make sure you're running your business well because their money is in it. See what I'm saying? Their money is in it. They've got their skin in the game. If you run your business well and make a profit over 4, 5, 6 years, you can pay them out. They make a profit and you're on your own. When everybody who can create a small business does so, you start with yourself. After some time, you have 2 people working with you. 3, 4, 5, 6. If you multiply it in the thousands, that is how jobs are created. Anywhere in the world. I've studied it and I teach it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you're just coming in now or if you're just joining us online, we are discussing an important subject, education with a vision, lesson for the next generation. We're almost rounding up the point of our discussion and then we'll give the opportunity for people to ask questions. And of course, if you're joining us online and you have 1 or 2 things to contribute, just type it on the chat bar and then we'll hopefully read it. And then we have ushers that have cue cards, question cards. If you cannot stand up to comment or ask your question, you can also write it down and hopefully we can take care of that. Honorable Commissioner, I have noticed that we have tinkered with several systems of education in Nigeria. There was a time it was the 6-3-3-4 formation, more like a football formation. There was a time it was 1-6-3-4, you know, and then recently we are practicing 9-3-4. It seems like we are doing naming ceremony, just changing the names. But experts and educationists has argued this system over time have not been able to help actualize the 3 H of education. That is being able to model a child both in head, hands, and in thinking. What seems to be the issue? Is it that the system is not being implemented or content issue? Because some other persons argue that inconsistency is one of the greatest challenge we have as far as this issue is concerned. What is your take on this? Should we continue to just churn out different systems? Or do you have in mind a particular system you feel we can work with going forward?
Well, in truth is that I happen to have been one who was at the crossroads of one of the things. In secondary school, I think by the time I was finishing, I was the last set to have finished final year before they changed the system again. And then those who were coming after me had to, you know, experience a different system and stay slightly longer in school than I did. To be honest with you, I personally do not have any real opinions about the differing systems, you know, that have been tried. My question is, I would like to ask the educationists who came together to propose any one of these systems. What was the root? What were they really thinking about? What were they hoping to gain? And in all honesty, if I could meet any one of them who did that, if at the root of their proposals for any of the changes in the new systems was about having discovered that it was something that maybe worked somewhere else, and then they wanted to come and use it in Nigeria, then in all honesty, if the answer to that question starts like that, even if the person continues to talk, I will tune out and I will stop listening. Because if the person continues to talk, for me, it will sound like, permit me to use the expression he has used before, speaking English. That's what it will sound like.
Yes.
So it's, for me, it's not really in the change of a system or which educational system should we adopt or which one should we borrow, especially in the issues of the number of years you spend at every level. Because you know the systems you call is how many years of primary, how many years of secondary, how many years of university and all that. So in all honesty, I feel that we have been going through the changes that most countries have had to go through. So it's like we are testing the ground and trying to see which one works. In all honesty, I feel that we shouldn't be talking about changing a new system now. Let us intensify the one we are working with, but let us look at the objectives around them and try to refine these objectives. Stop changing the issues of how many years you spend in one level. Think about the needs, the objectives. What are you trying to achieve culturally? And I think it's about time we started to sit down and develop long-term plans. And then start to agree that if we're going to exist as a nation, that the long-term plans we develop should go beyond political parties, political affiliations. It should be more like, look, we decide as a people that this is where we want to be in the next 50 years. And then we insist as a people that nobody is going to come and change the goalpost. And then whoever comes on board starts where the last person stopped. And then keeps driving this engine until we can get to these objectives that we set. Either for our separate regions and find the collective one for the nation Nigeria. And then drive the engine and then keep reviewing our course as we go along and rechanneling it as we go till we get the ultimate goal. I really believe that the absence of these long plans that rise above political affiliations, political leanings, is at the root of our problems, and not just the issue of every time tinkering with the systems and all that. So I don't have a proposal of any new system. I say drive the one we have, change the objectives, make them common ones, and common goals.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Prof, you wanted to say
Just one very brief comment on that.
Okay.
Now, the problem we have with the educational systems and the changes we've been making, the 6334 system, the whole point of it was to create a country that has a skilled population. So that when people get to a certain level in secondary school, this is what happens in Switzerland, where I lived for 7 years as part of my career in the UN. When you get to a certain point in the Swiss secondary school system, your aptitude has become clear. Whether you are into the professions or whether you're into the vocations. And when you get to that point, the people who have been selected or who have indicated interest to go into vocational training, they go into the institutes and learn a trade and move from there. The people who go to the universities go, that's the whole point. But as usual, in Nigeria, we copied the system, but we did not think it through. Why did we not think it through? One of the problems with governance in Nigeria is that, one, the development of policy is half-baked. Two, the implementation of policy and the performance of that implementation is not measured. Whatever gets measured gets done. So when you want to be a leader, you must set up a proper performance management system for any policy you're making. Let me end with one personal example about the 6334 and vocational education. One day in Geneva, very rarely, my toilet broke down, the toilet in my house. So we called a plumber to come and fix it. The man arrived with to do the job, knocked on the door. I opened the door. I saw a man standing at the door, and I saw a BMW parked outside. And I said to myself, surely this is not the plumber. When is the plumber coming? So I asked him. He said, no, I'm the plumber. He said, "Je suis moi." I said, oh, okay. I took a mental note. This plumber has a BMW. Wonderful. So we went in, he did the job. When the man gave me the bill, I understood how he could afford a BMW. So the point is, there's dignity in labor in advanced societies. And that man, being a plumber, is just as comfortable and as proud of his profession and vocation as a medical doctor or a lawyer. So we need to create a system of incentives that again moves people here into the vocations. It's already happening in an informal way. There was a time when if you study theater arts, people will be laughing at you. Peter, Udenze, we were in University of Nigeria together in the 80s. In those days, if you said you were reading theater arts, instead of law or accountancy or medicine or engineering, people will be laughing. Today, the Nollywood people are it. Right? Okay. Today, you have a lot of people who graduate in law or whatever, they go into fashion. In those days, we will call it tailoring. Today, we call it fashion. So, it depends. So, this is what we need to be moving towards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will just ask some more questions and then I will engage the audience more because we are almost running short of time. The issue now is this. We have a lot of graduates at the moment. People that went through this system uninformed. People that you can call it a mistake. And they are already in the world looking for a way out. Just like you said, the grammar we are speaking now may be alien to them, but they're looking out for specific details you need to give them. Considering the rate of unemployment we have in Nigeria and the number of graduates we have, United Nations has stated that our graduates are unemployable. What specific skill set would you suggest that some of our youths can embrace and acquaint and acquire, update themselves with in order to reposition themselves to the corporate society?
Skills relating to agriculture are very important. Agriculture employs more than 50 or 60% of the population in Nigeria. But when we say agriculture, it depends on who is talking about it. If I'm talking about it, I know what I mean. If certain people are talking about it, you know what they mean. They are talking about farming, just subsistence farming. I am talking about the agricultural value chain, which begins with the planting, but also the harvesting, also the transportation of the food produce from different parts of the country to another. That's one part of the value chain. The storage of agricultural produce is a value chain. You see, the processing is another value chain into finished products. The export is another value chain. So when I talk about agriculture, this is the way I think about agriculture. Now, if young people, are trained in a skills building program along these kinds of lines, it can create employment opportunities together with a venture capital fund. When I mentioned that, I forgot to say, it's going to be run by the private sector. So even if you're my cousin, don't think that because your brother is the president, you get the fund. No, that's what happens today. That's not what will happen when I'm there. So it will be competitive. You will have to be serious to access the fund. You show a business plan, and the fund says, okay, we can invest. Meanwhile, there has been a program over a year or two that takes millions of young unemployed people through a skills-based program in these areas of agriculture, in the areas of building. A lot of people are building in this country. And I find from experience that Nigerians don't have good welders anymore. They don't have good plumbers anymore. They don't have good masons anymore. And so our people go to look for those from Dahomey, from Benin Republic and Togo to do these things because our own people are increasingly unskilled. I built a house in Tanzania when I was in the UN. I owned a home there. I built it. And the work of the artisans, oh my God, flawless, beautiful. When you arrive at your house, you're happy. But a man, just to finish, I had a boss in the UN in Tanzania. Then I was a mid-level officer. The head of the mission I was a senior officer actually, but the head of the mission was a Nigerian, Dr. Agwokali. And he was building a house in his hometown in Abreba. And he told me a story. He said he came home to inspect his project. He looked at the building. I laugh when I remember this story. The light bulb, the switch, it was not straight. It was bent. So he was angry. He called the guy, the electrician who was doing it. The guy looked at him after he was expressing his anger. The guy walked to the place and switched it on. The light came on. He said, okay, but the light, they work now. Okay, what's the light is working.
Thank you. So, Honorable Commissioner, do you have any specific skill sets you would recommend or you would expose our youths for them to acquire based on circumstances surrounding the system they have embraced in terms of their education?
I will agree with what Prof. Moghalu has said, that agric is important. But I also look, we've talked about this agriculture and value chain and all that. In all honesty, I also want to borrow from what he has also said. You see, the development of your hustle. Look, even before it is set up in school, start to develop your hustle. And understand that, look, teaming graduates are existing all over the place. It is no longer time for you to keep waiting until you get this white-collar job. You've read engineering. Look, from experience, I have seen a few young people who start to think right. I have met, just like he has mentioned now, the person who comes to tend my garden. The last time he came with 2 assistants. This guy is from Abakaliki. This guy didn't finish secondary school. But when I interviewed these men when they were taking a break, the two assistants he came with, one of them read horticulture, graduate. And then the other one read botany. But they were now apprentices to a gardener who had been using for about 6 years, who did not finish secondary school. I'm telling everybody here, look, it's too late to start looking at that degree. Exactly. You need to go and develop your hustle.
Exactly.
Even on the new, look, and on the TV programs every day, that is what, I mean, there's this advert I watched recently. It's running on DSTV, where there's this young man going from place to place with his certificate trying to get a job. And then they first show you a scene where from his room in school, he will cook. And even the security men will come and eat. And then when he was going around looking for work, he didn't find. And then he now saw somebody who came to deliver food. And then his mind reflected back. And he realized that, look, people like to eat my food. And then the next thing they show you is where he had already come back with his friends and they had developed a successful business that was growing. It's about this hustle thing. What is it that can keep you awake at night? And then you'll find that by 4 a.m., you're still awake, you're still alert. Discover it. Run with it. Run with it. And let me tell you one thing about running with it. The institutions will follow you. If they will not follow you, what are some of the big eateries you have in Enugu now? Just think back. Who were they a few years ago? Some of them were just mama put. Let me not call names so that it won't be like I'm promoting any of them. But you know them. They started as small businesses. Do you know why they are big buildings right now? The banks followed them. One marketer came and studied the books. Probably he asked her to bring out her books and she brought out 20-leaf notebooks. And he saw the accounting system. And then he added 1 or 2 things there. He was looking for what? An account. So it's about what's in it for me. The banker found what was there for him. And then he tried to promote what is in it for her. And we are seeing the success stories right now. And then so many names are now coming up. They are budding and they are moving. There are several examples of such. So, you have graduated. You have that degree. They are saying you are unemployable. Change the narrative. Even if you have read something that is what keeps you awake at night, merge it. I say merge it. Let me tell you, I have spoken to a few young people in the past. My own area is medicine. And then I find I have to teach medical students. Some of them are here. What I have said is, what is it that keeps you awake at night? From my personal talk, some people have gone into health IT. You see a medical doctor, full-fledged medical doctor, he's not working right now. What he's doing is, he is in a think tank, thinking through solutions in healthcare. He has joined the IT people because he has a passion for IT and he's moving with it. Right now, there is health law. And there are some doctors that are moving into health law. Right now, there is health politics. I know some of the young men who are in the Medical Students Association. And I tell them, look, you have a flair for politics. And you're reading medicine. If you don't want to get frustrated, go into health politics. It's a budding and developing area. Let me tell you, we have a medical association. They are striking right now. But one of the things that is missing amongst those people is this. We have unions. And those unions are in Abuja. But amongst the profession, we need to identify those who have the flair for lobbying. And then find a way for the associations to sponsor those people to remain in Abuja and let a doctor wake up every morning. And where he's going to is the National Assembly. And what he's going to the National Assembly to do is lobby. Go to lobby the interest of doctors. And doctors are contributing their money to pay the salary he should have earned in a hospital if he was working. Just because he has the skill and he has been tested and they know what he can do. those are the kind of things we should start doing right now.
Thank you.
Develop your hustle. If there was time, we will just keep talking about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We must close this discussion at least by 7:10. So we'll give a few minutes for questions and then comments, if there is any comments, why they bring the question forward. I know a lot of persons sent me personal messages that they have a lot of questions for Professor Kinsley Moghalu. You know, they told me that. So please, if there are comments, we may not, the truth is we cannot take all the questions, but we'll try as much as possible to do justice to some of them. Any comments? Okay. Somebody asked, an entrepreneur who has the skills and actually they didn't say, hopefully both of you. An entrepreneur who has the skills and knowledge to run a business but doesn't have funds, how can he go about it when all the financial sectors that gives loan require guarantor, which the common entrepreneur do not have? I think this has already been taken care of. This has been taken care of during the discussion. I don't think there's anything for us going into it. The next question is, thank you for the very enlightening discussion. My question, what can parents do to help children in schools considering the very uncertain terrain? What should be the role of parents? We are now going into the roles of parents. Anybody can chip into this, Prof? Just a few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a parent, so, and I know the importance of my parents in my life. There is nothing more important for anybody who has brought children into this world than to encourage those children, to support those children, to provide for those children, and to give them guidance. In the days when I was a very young, much younger person, if you did not want to study law, medicine, engineering, and those kinds of things, you will always have problems with your parents. I think most of us who went to university in the 80s know that. My original plan was to study mass communication. When I mentioned it to my father, he said, "Mass gaming." You must be joking, my friend. You have to read law. And I said, "I'll study sociology." He said, "No." So I was never, to be very honest, enthusiastic about the study of law because I never had any plan to practice it. So this is parental influence. Now the world has changed. Knowing these things we know now and we're discussing here, encourage your kids along their talents and try to teach them how to make a living out of what they want to do. That is their passion. I think this is the role of parents, to be enablers, not obstacles. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's simple and straightforward. To be enablers and not obstacle. Did you hear that? Enablers and not obstacle. Do not conform them to your own wishes. Enablers. Some other person asked an interesting question, and I think it's kind of creating some confusion here. He said, the person is asking, is education more important than moving into business? Is education more important? And I'm there asking myself, what's the difference between the business and the education? You know, when we talk about education, it's not academics. It's beyond academics. It's beyond academics. We have talked about the Igbo entrepreneurship system. That is business. You've talked about going into fashion, learning skills in those specific, in different areas. That is business. Business mustn't necessarily be by the time you enter the university. You can study it in anywhere. So, unless you have any other information.
Yes, I would recommend to people very clearly to please make sure you get a basic level of education. At the very least, a secondary school education is required. That is just the minimum. And if you feel you don't want to go to university, but you have a particular skill that you want to go and specialize in, that is okay. So that's my comment. But if you do only primary school, as many of our people did in the Nnewi in those days, and went into business, later on they all went back to school, night school.
Thank you very much. I've just been informed that Pastor has a comment to make. Please, you can, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for the contribution. So my question is to you, Prof. You know, you were talking about blowing grammar. And then I remember that Professor Ayade in Cross River blew grammar. And finally he has blown things there. Down to maybe going back to those people he also referred us to, that they were not doing well. Rochas Okorocha blew grammar to the point he invented his own, Iberiberism. And then you can also see the state of things. You know, and then you have talked about sending inspectors to school. Very wonderful. Are you going to import these inspectors? When Professor Obi was talking, there was something he said. He said a few months ago, there are things he would have said. And I know what he was talking about was before his venture into the system. Now he has entered. He feels he has something to tell us. So, is this still not going to be the same way with you? That when you finish blowing the grammar now, and then you enter, and the man you are sending as the inspector is still looking for money to pay the children's school fees. And with every inspection, he settled and he writes reports. So, tell us where blowing grammar and reality will marry to give us the Nigerian of our dream. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Yeah. Thank you, Pastor. That is a very brilliant question. I want to say something here, and I want everybody to listen carefully. There are two things that are involved in leadership, which, you know, there's education in learning. There's education in character. When we talk about education, we often forget that in character and learning is the motto of most educational institutions. So, when you are selecting a leader at a political level, please look at two things. Not just the level of knowledge educationally or intellectually. There are people who are very clever in academic knowledge, and they use that cleverness in the wrong way. They use it to game the system. They use it to make money because they've looked around and they said, the system is like this. I cannot fight it. So I have to stop. They join the system and join with their PhD. There are those whose character will make them look at the system and say, no, I will not become part of this system. I will try to mobilize the citizens to change this system. That is a function of character. That's number one. Number two is track record. Please always look at the track record. I have had a professional career for over 30 years. Go and check my career from Newswatch to the United Nations, from the United Nations to the Central Bank, from the Central Bank to a professorship, from my professorship into politics. I could have joined the big political gravy train if I was looking for money or a job. Do you understand? These things are pointers. So always look at the track record. Was this person's track record when he had so and so responsibility? Colin Powell said, when he was a student at City College of New York, he was mopping floors to make some money. He says, I mopped the floor so well that people were happy when they came to work in the morning. I did the job perfectly. So whether it's cleaning the window, there are people who will clean that window in a way that it will be different from when you give it to somebody who is not serious about the job. So track record is important. Character is important. If you are able to blow grammar, it should be backed up with these foundations that I'm mentioning. So when I say blowing grammar, I'm talking about the importance of intellect because it does matter. When people dismiss ideas, you should feel sorry for them because ideas rule the world. Fact.
Thank you very much. I also have some questions. Okay.
Let me just
Okay.
let me add a little bit about on the issue of our topic, education with vision. Something just crossed my mind now, especially as to what leaders should do. We shouldn't just throw away completely what has been happening positively in Nigeria. We should identify the ones that have been positive and then look at how we can replicate them or scale them up as much as possible. It just occurred to me now about, from experience also, several years ago, there's a part of this country where almost in a derogatory manner, people used to say that if you're from that side of the country, the only thing you're good for is to be a houseboy or to be a steward. Right? Now, from that pain, I am seeing something that is materializing. A lot of people now will experience flights in Nigeria. And then there is this new airline on the scene that is coming from that area that they will say what they were good for. They were good for being houseboys. Look, all their leaders have done is to look inward and discover that what they have is excellence in service delivery, that they are not too proud to serve. Let me give you an example. I went to one of those states in that area once, and I went to a restaurant to eat. In Enugu here, when you get into a restaurant to eat, sometimes by 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m., you come to knock. What you might get is a funny look from the person serving there, and the next thing the person will tell you is, "Ahaiwe pebe. We're not yet open." And they're looking at you as like you're disturbing somebody, and you, "Please go away, we're not yet open. Can't you see the sign? It's 10 o'clock. Do you see anybody here by 10? And that is what a waitress is telling you. But in one of those states, going to eat, I enter with a friend to eat. I tell you that between the space of asking us what we wanted to eat, the table and the chairs had been cleaned 7 times by the person asking you. The table and the chairs had been cleaned while asking you what you wanted to eat 7 times before you placed your order. Something that crossed my mind was, oh, this might be the reason why they say that a man might go to those areas and then he gets stuck and he doesn't leave because he gets to marry somebody from that area. Service. And then I compared it with my own environment and said, because we relaxed and we ate, and then the ambience was an ambience of service. Now, you can see it being reflected in an airline. And then everybody is saying that is one good airline is growing. These are the type of things we should be promoting. I keep saying it. Education with a vision is leadership identifying the intricate culture and the strengths in a people and developing curricula around those things and then promoting them. What are we talking about this issue of Igbo entrepreneurship system? Somebody asked a question here. Is it better? How did they even put it? Is it better to do business or is it better to get educated? My answer to the person who asked that question in this room is that going to serve as an apprentice is an education.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think we should be rounding up, but then there's an important question I would want to ask. And Prof, I know you are in a hurry to go somewhere, but it's important I ask that question, and hopefully we can nip it in the bud. Somebody said, can we say that by embracing education that aligns with one's vision, such person is guaranteed that he or she will be successful? Just in a few minutes.
I think that it prepares you to be successful. That's what I would say. oftentimes in life, there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees. But, you know, certain things give you a better positioning, make you more competitive. So embracing with an education with a vision can never, you will never board last. Let's just say, you will not board last. So it prepares you. There are no guarantees. You have to work hard. Thank you.
Okay, I think we should be rounding up from here, but I have concern with what you just said now. It said it prepares you, but never a guarantee. I feel that at some point, here is my own thinking. There are people that will rise through the formal sector. There are people that will rise through the informal sector. Knowledge is knowledge, no matter how it is gotten. We have the likes of Innocent, Charis that has risen through the apprenticeship system. We have the likes of you and you, Okonjo-Iweala, Soludo, that has risen through the formal and the academic system. In all honesty, I feel that there are challenges you encountered across the line and you never stopped. To me, the guarantee is the power at work in you. To me, the guarantee is the power at work in you. We shouldn't just conform to a system of learning just because society said so. Focus on a system of learning that embraces and addresses where you are going to. And this power can come in diverse form. Your character, your level of perseverance, your level of stay power, your level of spiritual maturity and understanding, because in all honesty, spiritual also controls the physical. And your level and your ability to pray yourself through is one factor we shouldn't take for granted. These are different powers. And the truth is that the university, when they are giving a certificate, they say, I haven't found you worthy in character and in learning. Question, is 4 years enough for you to learn all the character you need to learn to become successful? It is not enough. So every day we learn. Your ability to learn and unlearn is also a power at work in you. And those things I feel should be our guarantee. So thank you very much. We will stand up and take the national anthem, and then I'll wrap it up from here. Okay, sorry. The Honorable Commissioner, I think is also necessary. Any final words? Okay, from you.
Well, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's been a most, enriching discussion. Certainly for me, even though I was one of the discussants, I was also learning. Learning never ends. Thank you.
Okay, from me, it's actually also been a real pleasure. And I think the final word I want to leave us with is this. The platform in which we are discussing is still one that hinges on the belief system of Christ. And then we need to leave this place with something drawn from the word of God. In truth, my own final word is this, for whoever is listening, cyberspace or physically. What the word says is that He, God, will bless the work of our hands. What it means is that there must be a work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, can we have the national anthem?